It's many factors to consider before you can resuscitate an economy. So if you're allowed to fidget so that the rest of the world will give credit to the government of Zimbabwe to say, this is now the GNU era. You need someone who is credible. You can't use one of the Chiganandas because we will ask you to, okay, so all along, why are you not doing it? Imagine if they used whatever progress we are recording now, we've recorded during it is time. We would have questioned to say, so but it's just bring this thing, it's actually strategic, intentionally so to say, power BT. BT, what can BT do? What can you trade do without the input of other sectors in the economy? And it includes the drivers of the economy, and particularly the informal sector. And to me, it's stupidity to hear economists debating on growth when, in actual fact, there's no single policy that speaks to including the informal sector. That is stupidity. You may have good policies, which I'm proud of, but they will not work as long as those who are supposed to be induced, those who are supposed to have confidence in the banking sector, arguably so, we have got the money, and in a situation where the money is in the hands of the elite, it's a very extraordinary situation where individuals are filthy rich and to create a government. But the institutions, including ZANU-PF, they are all broke like a church mouse.
Welcome to Zim1, a platform where every voice matters and every idea counts. This is a space dedicated to nation building, shaped by the thoughts, hopes, and lived experiences of the people of Zimbabwe. From the streets to the classrooms, from farms to factories, from elders to the youth, we bring together brilliant points from different gatherings of citizens across our nation. These are conversations rooted in reality, driven by patriotism, and guided by the belief that Zimbabwe's future is built by its people. Here, we listen, we reflect, and we share ideas that inspire unity, progress, and sustainable development. This channel is not about politics alone. It is about solutions. Not about division, but about collective responsibility. Join us as Zimbabweans from all walks of life contribute insights that strengthen our communities, uplift our nation, and shape the Zimbabwe we all want to see. This is our voice. This is our vision. This is nation building together.
Revolutionary greetings, fellow Zimbabweans. It's a struggle for economic freedom. And we shall not stop, we will not stop until Zimbabwe gets working. My good leader here, you treat honorable. And anybody who is adding value to something that speaks to the economy of Zimbabwe, which we are betting to get working again. And to accommodate those who argue that it's working, but again, I'll put you in the same line to say all those who are trying to make Zimbabwe do even better, I'm sure we can do even better. Now, I share the same sentiments with the previous speaker. It's very sad that we get this point where we are discussing the impossibles, because it's a sign of desperation. I'll bring up to speed. The champion is here. I asked a question, and I still have the argument. The earlier question was, how do you measure gross domestic product, commonly GDP, in two competing currencies, the ZiG, which is given to Zimbabwe, by the way. I'm not apologetic on that. Most people don't know. Chataura ukazvanaka mataura chokwadi maeconomists. Look at ISAP, it was given to us, so there's nothing peculiar in what you are hearing, that it is given to Zimbabwe by IMF to try and see if it works, then it will be used as a precedence to bail out economies world over. get them out of the hyperinflationary zone. So I'm not protecting ZANU-PF, by the way.
So you're saying Mtuli is superior?
So this is what I've just said is surrounding the question. Comparison of the two is Shakatudakwa. Because you need a stable currency. You need to identify which currency you're using. And the silly argument that even in the United Kingdom, they use other currencies. No, the difference is Zimbabwe is declared a multi-currency economy. So the question, which again, I did not articulate champion because of Skanatapinda, people start fidgeting. We're still in an informal situation in the Zimbabwe economy. Well, we can argue, but it's in the hands of the informal sector. How do you the computation, the data? How do you collect data from the under the trees and all that? We want to close one eye and open the other. How do you measure even the growth of the economy? So now, to bring everybody on the picture of what I'm talking about, these are issues surrounding the question. I'll read out something. It is possible to measure gross domestic product, GDP, in a multi-currency system. Although it requires specific conversion methods rather, to achieve a underlying meaningful single value. Right? The primary challenge is the lack of a single stable unit of account with the economy itself. I've highlighted that to say, how do you do that? Because it's a multi-currency coupled by the fact that 95.5% of the transactions in the ecosystem, they're in the informal sector. It's a fact. Then the whole thing becomes complex. It starts by saying it's possible, but it's quite complex. And I'm not saying going to lie or sugarcoat. It sounds nonsensical. Or I'm advocating to those who can do it to challenge the IMF report. It's stupid, it's nonsensical, but people want to give reference, say, because the report from IMF is stupidity, because if you are to go scientific, I can't school you, I can't tell you, economists, those are the guidelines, because you must have a stable currency. It must be a reference point. We are discussing here, we must have parameters of discussion. It relates to that. How can you talk of a measurement? What is your datum? What is your basis of that measurement? It's nonsensical. Now, I'll quickly go on to the comparison. It's many factors to consider before you can resuscitate an economy. So if you're allowed to fidget so that the rest of the world will give credit to the government of Zimbabwe to say, this is now the GNU era. You use someone who is credible. You can't use one of the Chiganandas, because we will ask you to, okay, so all along, why are you not doing it? Imagine if they used whatever progress we are recording now, we've recorded during it is time. We would have questioned to say, so but it's just bring this thing, it's actually strategic, intentionally so to say, power BT. BT, what can BT do? What can you trade do without the input of other sectors in the economy? And it includes the drivers of the economy, and particularly the informal sector. And to me, it's stupidity to hear economists debating on growth when, in actual fact, there's no single policy that speaks to including the informal sector. That is stupidity. You may have good policies, which I'm proud of, but they will not work as long as those who are supposed to be induced, those who are supposed to have confidence in the banking sector, arguably so, we have got the money, and in a situation where the money is in the hands of the elite, it's a very extraordinary situation where individuals are filthy rich and to create a government. But the institutions, including ZANU-PF, they are all broke like a church mouse. Would rather argue on those, two positions to say who has got the money, the government or the informal sector. Before we even talk of the measurement to say how far are we going, it doesn't make sense. It's zero. It's all feja. The bags of minerals that are being sold in the parallel market is not a secret. Then Sirigwaranda itotaura zvinodarika kuti munzwisise ndopamwe ndotori V11 racho, where as an example you trade, you can be told if you find a buyer 2 million for minerals, we'll give you 1%. They'll prepare and then the package will go outside, whether through shipping shells or whatever. But the long and short, that money, that transaction hasn't gone through the normal system. And it's a fact. And I'm asking a question again in the same line. Is there a way we can prove the numbers going into the fiscus, money coming into the treasury, Reserve Bank, money coming out, even the payments that were made to IMF? Because my sixth sense tells me, in the manner the economy is being run, references Simbachkore, who was asked, where did he get the money to buy Zimbabwe? An official presser by the Minister of Transport and Finance confirmed what I'm saying right now, that they defended that no, he doesn't have money, meaning the government admitted that they gave an individual, a citizen of Zimbabwe, and they hide behind the finger sanctions to say, no, that money, it was a transaction for a Zimbabwe, for a parastate, but through an individual account. That is stupidity. So why am I bringing up this? IMF, it needs to be, interrogated, their report, because if they are accepting money from Signoro, from U-Trade, from Champion, Shikananda, and just saying, no, what we just want to look at is this money is on behalf of Zimbabwe. It's very possible. If you owe me money, I don't care whether I've asked Susan or Tendai or Chakadaro or Shinotimba to pay for me. I'll acknowledge proof of payment to say this payment which arrived in your account at 1300 hours, right, reference, then I'll allocate it to your debt, senor. And that's exactly what is happening. Unless someone give me Mudama V11, money coming from the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe being wired through whichever intermediary bank settling, then I would also want to know, when did that money come into the country in the first place? So to compare the two, really, I will tell you, the left hand does not know where the right hand is coming from. It's a rhetoric statement that I've known for the longest time. So there's no way you can excel. There's sabotage, there's anything that you can think of. BT was allowed to produce those results. Unless it takes quite a lot of effort from different sectors of the economy, for a result to come out. But a result can be tailor-made. But because it's Nonyana, and we respect IMF, we don't want to find out so that we clear the propaganda. Where is the money coming from? The money is still under the pillow. The money is still being received through black market systems. And there's evidence to that. It's not just in Henrietta. So if IMF closes one eye and they don't care where the money they are settling is coming from, it's nonsensical. And Champion, as I learned, you said something so profound. There's no feja. Kuzim culture, cultured nation is a healthy nation. A healthy nation is a disciplined nation. Disciplined nation is a strong economy. I'm not noisy. Hence, chance is zero corruption. Oh, near zero. But I'll borrow what you said, Champion. A strong economy in tandem, that economy is a healthy economy. How do you have a stable economy in an ill system when the health system is in a state which it is right now. I'm not a propagandist. I know what I'm talking about. We are scattered all over the world. That is illness number one. Kutorwara economy. When people run away from their economy, it is sick. I'm not just focusing sickness in hospitals. The economy is sick, and the IMF don't need to be told by me. You don't need a microscope to see that. But if you're just going to take figures and respect figures without scrutinizing, they are part of the problem, because this is money laundering money, which is going to settle a bill. And I'm not apologetic. You trade, when you come out of Zimbabwe, you are restricted. I don't know now, as an example, you can't take out 10,000 fine. But when you go back to Zimbabwe, nobody cares. You're coming back with 1 million worth of goods, even 500 million. Isn't that thuggery? You restrict money going out, but you don't care where it's coming from. And because you are enjoying the benefits. So how do you reconcile my book? Kamira saying, how do you honestly champion? How do you manage my books when I don't have receipts for my course? How am I running my business if I'm paying people from the till? So it's incomparable. It's because we are a desperate nation. We just
round two.
Yeah, I'm just dropping to say we are just a desperate nation. We are not brave. I wish I was an economist. I wish I was a lawyer. I would take them to the highest court in the land. So you cannot abuse the people of Zimbabwe like that, because we don't want to argue. Because it's coming from IMF. So what? I'll stop here. But your question, champion. Furthermore, in informal sector, furthermore, champion. That question was not articulated. If you can, in the process, I'll be more than grateful to say, how do you do that in an informal? Thank you.